Subhajit, how about you mentioned it, of course, but maybe a little more detail on prototyping, MVP, and how to ensure, that the product market fit is happening. Obviously, you want to do it in the initial idea stage, but then I think you want to keep iterating on that and keep refining it, making it a better and better fit, and so on.
No, but I didn't get your question basically.
No, I meant let's say a startup founder has an idea, right? So now he should ensure that it has a product market fit is correct, right? That it's actually solving the problem. But then then next he'll build a prototype, correct, at some point in the near future. So then he should have that prototype evaluated by maybe a focus group or whatever, and then ensure that it is still, the product market fit is still there. And if not, then make whatever required changes, right?
Yes. So let me tell you the entire process basically. Sure. So validation is not at the time of idea generation, or it should not be at the time of prototyping. Validation should go hand in hand. So at the time when I'm coming up with the problem statement, that problem statement, the validation should start with the problem statement. Whether the problem that I have identified, whether that problem is relevant or not, whether it fits with the market or not. If not the current market, whether this problem can well fit with the future market or not, whether it is futuristic or not. Starting from there, we will come to the next part, that is coming up with some sort of solution, the optimal solution as I was talking about. So once the solution I have identified, maybe with certain techniques. So normally I also advocate for design thinking techniques. There are 36 techniques that have been suggested under design thinking. So we can very well leverage those techniques to identify some of the optimal solutions out of it. So suppose now I have got the optimal solution while using those techniques here and there. So even that validation should also be there. That done, like in order to validate whether my idea is really smart. It may be specific, but it may not be measurable. If it is measurable and specific, it may not be realistic. Even if it is realistic, it may not be time bound. Something like all these, each and every measure has to be taken up in order to make sure that my idea can really fit in as a project.
Correct. But because Subhajit, what I was saying was all that is theoretical, and that's well and good. But at some point, you actually make a product and show it to actual human beings and see how they react. Because ultimately, that is the important thing, right? Because you can kind of theoretically think something, you can fall in love with your idea. A lot of startup founders, right? My idea is right, and even though it's wrong, and then that's how they fail. So at that point, what I was saying was, right, you make the MVP or something, the prototype, and then you actually try it out with real people and see what they say. Because they may just say, hey, we don't like this, we won't use this.
It is quite possible, yeah, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's what I'm saying. So like the assessment for commercialization is very much important. So I remember a few days back, I visited one of the universities, and the innovation head of that university was showing me what are all the prototypes that the students have made, and he was so happy that we have got so many products that are there, and so many patents that I have got, all these things. Right. I asked one thing: how many of these prototypes are actually good enough for commercialization? If not, then in that case, none of your students are good enough to start with a startup, to set up a startup, set up a startup. Because if I want to be an entrepreneur, I have to see my idea whether that is good for commercialization or not. It is not about I'm aspiring for an idea and I have come up with a wonderful idea. I have created a prototype, but ultimately this is not at all fit in the market. I have to find out whether my idea, whether the product that I have developed may fit in the market or not. The idea can be very much related to a research work. That is fine enough. It is very much be useful in the academia, and you may get multiple patents for that one. That is good enough. The idea can be of your own choice, and it can be very much aspirational. Okay, I'm not at all associated with any university or academia, but I have got an idea. I am good techie, and I have designed something, but at the same time, it may not be good enough for commercialization. So having that kind of commercialization aptitude is very much important. That when I am coming up with an idea, whether my idea, the valuation of the idea has been done or not, whether I have created that financial model, even if I'm starting chai ka tapri, that tea stall, then also what new that I am doing, whether I'm replicating the same thing what the nearby is doing, then it's not at all. But if I'm talking about the chayos is one of the best examples.
Yes.
And it has come with its own way of delivering tea, the way it is serving to the customer. That is one thing. It's not about like I'm creating another tea stall just in the nearby the roadside. I am a startup. It's not a startup. Yeah, certainly it is something with which you can very well continue with your livelihood, but it is not startup. So a startup is something wherein you have it has to be innovative first of all. Secondly, you should have a proper financial model behind which can ascertain some sort of commercialization. That okay, you can very well commercialize it, you can very well scale it up. You have certain vision like, okay, maybe I am starting with this one. In next 2 or 3 years, I will be there. I will spread across different locations. Likewise, you can be a startup. It is not that I'm confined and I'm just looking around. So like it's just like it will be a kind of I'm doing a job, some sort of job. A businessman, I'm doing just job. It's not that. So even if you're a startup, you have to have a different thought, different vision altogether. The how I can grow, and in order to grow, how I can inculcate innovation into my products, into my services, how I can spread my wings across. Those things are very much important.
Great. So before we move to the products being launched now, we try and go for growth. We maybe try and go for funding. Do you have anything to say about and further to say? I should say about like the building of it, the project management, development, testing, all that sort of thing, or is that kind of just the usual best practices
that is the usual best practices that has to be there. So and again, like thinking of it like, okay, project management is well suited for only for IT companies or maybe for manufacturing. It's not like that. Even if you are building, if you are building something like maybe you are into a real estate and you are planning to build building out of it, that is itself a project, isn't it? So project work, creating a project is very much important, and therefore PMP, that is PMI, Project Management Institute, always says that project is not confined to IT, or project is not confined to a particular area. It is a horizontal one. So you can apply the best practices of project management to each and every industry. Even if you are in pharmaceutical, you can very well use. If you are in academia, then also you can very well use this one. That is first thing. Second one, the life cycle. Whatever be the product that you are developing or whatever be the services that you are developing. So the life cycle has to be executed the way it has to say. For example, for software, we normally go for SDLC. Although like within SDLC, I can go with the waterfall, I can go with the spiral, I can go with the RAD, rapid application development, I can go with Agile, I can go with DevOps, whatever it is. But yes, there must be a life cycle. Yes. Similarly, even if I am going for the product development, also, under which category I'm going to develop the product. So accordingly, I have to opt that life cycle, and I have to adhere that life cycle thoroughly, because this is one of the best practices in order to ensure that ultimately my product will be launched. That is another part.
No, so because one second, one important point I wanted to make here, and this I've encountered back when I was working a regular job as well as startup. It's all very well for people like you and me who get this, who believe in this, but the people like the developers, for example, the testers, the staff, they're not interested in all of this. They don't want to follow PMI. They just want to do their way, random. So then what to do? Because, it's like I'm trying to offer the correct way, which will help them ultimately only, right? Their life will be easier if we do it with using best practices, but they don't see that. They don't get that. They're used to what the way they do and they do. So how to handle these people?
Something like that, like, okay, in normally in India I have seen, like, if I have got headache, or if I'm feeling fever, okay, just bring paracetamol, I will have.
Right.
I know my body, and it's not like that. So maybe for body it may work for some time, but ultimately if my health will get deteriorated, then in that case I have to approach the doctor.
Right.
So, but we can't take that sort of risk if I am really very serious about startup. So it is always suggested that either you can identify a coach who can very well handhold you during this journey, so that you can create a proper project plan, or else you can very well hire someone, maybe like cloud resource or something like that.
No, Sujit, that isn't the problem. I've already written the perfect project plan, but nobody in let's say I have a staff of 10 people. None of those 10 people are wanting to follow that project, that beautiful, perfectly perfect project plan. That is the problem. That's what I've run into so many times, even back when I was working India, America. It's always the case. My feeling is maybe 10% of the people understand this, that you've got to follow best practices, procedure. 90% just want to do it randomly their way, whatever.
So now there are two things. So, like, whether the founder himself or herself does not want to follow, or whether the employees who are working in that firm, they don't want to follow. If it is the second case, then the founder himself, because he has got the authority, he should make sure that these best practices must be adopted, and there must be certain guardrails as well that everyone has to follow. And as I said, and personally I have seen that, in at least in the startup enterprises, if I feel that, okay, I am a chairperson, I am the director, and I will not look into like how people in the field or people in the operations, they are doing the work. One thing is sure, my business will get miserably failed. I have to be with them. So that is why I'm saying, so I have to first, being a founder, I have to first understand the value of project management, because as I said, like, every idea is a project. So I have to understand the value of project. So in case if I also don't want to understand, or I don't know why should I consider an idea to be a project, then a proper, I would say, um, proper coaching is very much important, I believe, uh, because that person is not at all aware what is project, and why this idea or why his idea should be taken through that framework. So some sort of coaching is certainly required. Otherwise, like, if someone is very much stubborn about, oh, I don't want to adopt any kind of best practice, or I don't want to consider the idea as a project, then everything will depend upon his faith. So maybe it may happen that, irrespective of whether any best practices has been considered or not, maybe their business may go to the top. Otherwise, it will fail. But again, even if it is going on the top, maybe for initial days they may get some good result. But one thing is sure, that it will not sustain for a longer time, because somewhere or other you have to adopt certain best practices.
Absolutely. I've just found with this. Okay, here's the thing: when even though you're the founder and you're the ultimate decision maker, it's still very difficult and challenging to deal with someone who just simply doesn't want to do it. Or I found this very fascinating, that they just there's so much resistance with these people, and then most of the time it's just you got to replace them. Really, the staff that's not willing to change and follow the correct process. Yeah, but anyway, so
that is the human nature, to be very honest.
And then when you do that, then there's all the consequences. Okay, now this guy's gone, so now whatever little progress was being made, even that has come to a halt. Now you got to get a new person, onboard them, KT them, etc., etc. Then
That is basically the human touch, I would say, Vivek. So I know what you want to say. That like many a times we feel strong resistance from the people who are working in the organization while we are going to introduce something new to the process. But I believe like if we can walk them through certain like some
right,
workshops or some sort of training, um, or soft skill, basically the soft skill training, that is also very much important. So slowly and gradually, even if they are resistant at, because why are we resistant to the change? Because change is the only constant.
right,
So why are we resistant to the change? Because first of all, I feel that I have been already doing these things. On top of them, there is a change because I have already created that comfort zone. Now I don't want to come out of that comfort zone. That is the first resistance. So somewhere or other, I have to, being a founder, being maybe a coach, I have to break that comfort zone. I have to enter into their shoes, and then I have to feel what challenges that they have. That is the empathetic touch that I have to give to them, so that like we can understand where they are feeling the pain. Once that is done, then only with the human touch only we can bring them out from that sort of difficult zone wherein like they feel that okay, if something is coming, it either it will replace me or it will be a burden for me. So neither it is going to replace them nor it's a burden to them. It will basically much more, it will make them their life much more comfortable. So that sort of things we have to explain maybe by with the help of some workshop or maybe some storytelling, maybe with some giving some examples, success stories, those things. Slowly and gradually there will be changes for sure. Yes, there could be some outliers who will certainly they will go out and all those things, but for that only I was talking about the BCP2. So in order to avoid any kind of 11th hour surprise, we should have some plan A is already going, so we should have plan B or plan C, which can very well be adopted as we go ahead in my journey.
okay. So Subhajit, let's get to the point where okay, I've released my product or service. Now it's time. Marketing is the important thing going on. So, did you have any suggestions on that? Or any advice for us on marketing?
Yes. So see, like as I said, like when I'm talking about the commercialization, marketing is very first thing that comes into the picture. Like okay, whether it has been marketed or not. So only when it has been marketed, then only I can think of the sales. And then once it is sales, then the revenue part and all those things. So we are now in today's world when everything is so much digital. So we are very much blessed with the digital platforms. So we can very well create several digital footprints while leveraging several digital platforms, like maybe LinkedIn could be the one of the best ways. Twitter is there. Then Twitter is now X. Facebook is also there. Then Google Ads. And then YouTube is also there. So there are so many things wherein, and there are various services which basically promote these things now. SMS and also like bulk SMS, bulk WhatsApp, yeah. So promotional activities are very much important so that I can ensure that i am uh, I am reaching out to all the possible potential clients or potential customers, and following to that I can see the traction when I will be launching the product or the service into the market, the sales part I'm talking about. So for marketing, it's very much important that how we are creating our footprints in the market. And as I said, like digital footprint is the best way. And besides the digital footprint, we can also go with some paper or maybe newspaper or maybe through media whatsoever. But yeah, the very first thing is the digital footprint, and that too depends upon the type of product or service that you are going to be. Say for example, it is very much high end software and all. I'm not sure, like promoting something onto Facebook, how much it will be beneficial, but certainly it will be beneficial if you are promoting this one through LinkedIn.
So Vijay, let me ask this: you have all these possible marketing channels to go. How do I know which one is right for my product and service? How does
Yes,
someone figure that out?
Yes, so that's what I'm saying. So like when I am going to introduce something in the market, the offering. So very first thing we normally see that who is going to use that one. That is the customer segmentation.
Correct.
After doing that one, then we further see like the other demographic attributes along with the locations where we want to. So many times we normally say like it is good for the southern part or northern part or maybe for the Asias or like that.
Yeah.
So that too we have to identify. Now based upon all these criteria, we have to see like maximum number of people what I have found from particular region within particular demography, all these things, what all the which are the platforms they are using. Say for example, I have found like the customers whom I have identified for from particular region, they are basically using this one, yeah, maybe YouTube or maybe Facebook, not much onto LinkedIn. My first intention will be to promote this one through this one YouTube and this Facebook rather than LinkedIn or something else.
Right.
Yes, certainly we can use LinkedIn, X, and other platform, Instagram as a secondary, but the primary will be the first for which we have identified the customers. So nowadays, this is very much important again because people are hardly reading newspapers and they hardly watch media as well, like I'm saying like news or maybe advertisement as we used to watch during our 80s or 90s time, like okay, so but nowadays we don't, like people don't watch. So the best way, the alternative way is like we know that most of the people are using Instagram, most of the people, but again which segment of people and which type of product that I am making. That is what I'm saying. So if it is a high-end thing, and say for example, Mercedes, say suppose Mercedes is coming up with no high-end luxury car. One thing is sure that it is not going to promote its product onto either onto Facebook or maybe onto LinkedIn. Sorry, maybe onto Twitter, Instagram, or maybe TikTok. It will always find something else, maybe onto YouTube, maybe onto LinkedIn, wherein it can see like what type of people that they are looking for to be their customer. So identifying the customer, identifying the location, identifying what type of budget that product or the offering may have. So accordingly, we have to identify which should be my primary mode of promotion and then which should be my secondary mode of promotion and tertiary. Likewise, we have to divide.
So for Mercedes, like generally it's wealthy people who buy that, right? So then you have to figure out, okay, what do wealthy people look at or read or whatever, and then target, do the advertisement there.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because otherwise, like as I said initially, that budget part is very much important. And for marketing, I have seen that we have to keep a bigger size of budget.
Yes.
Because it costs.
And typically, what happens is because of all the problems and delays and whatnot you face during the idea to execution phase, then you run out of money at the marketing stage.
Absolutely.
That's what happened to me. But I had more funds that I could draw out on, so I'm okay. I'm still in the game. But if I was limited to my original budget, I was dead. I was dead in the water, right? Just because of all my.
That's true as well. And for marketing, one thing is sure, like if your marketing strategy is not strong and you are out of your budget, you will really struggle a lot even to get funding from the investors. Investors are not going to give you the money. Sure.
Right. So that's actually perfect timing. Let's talk about investors. So just the point you were just making right now. So if they see that I'm requesting investment, but I've run out of money. I'm at my last pennies. So are you saying that they will not be interested, even though maybe the idea is very good and the product, prototype, whatever, all that is very good. But I mean, is that that much of a problem if I've run out of money?
No, it depends upon it again case to case basis. So, in why you are running out of money, it is because certain strategy failed miserably.
Certain mistakes were made.
Certain mistakes, or there is some really quality issue because of which the customers have denied to take your product, and now you have got a big inventory and you are not able to manage, and no one is going to purchase even this one. You can't even sell off your entire price. So the very first thing is to understand like why you are running out of money, and if it is legitimate, if it is reasonable, that okay, this is why, like it's quite possible, then in that case, if you are putting forward the reasons to the investors, there is a likely chance that you will get. And even if not investors, but if I can foresee that today I need maybe 5 crores of funding, and I'm sure the way that I have thought of, the way I have designed this strategy for promotion and launching the product in the market, it can yield quite a good revenue in next 2 to 3 years. I would also suggest like go for the what called bank loan, in case you are not finding, if you are not at all finding any investors to invest on you. Doesn't matter.
But the problem with bank loan is the interests are so high. You just run.
That's what I'm saying. So many of the banks nowadays helping these startups with lower interest rate.
Okay.
So that's what I'm saying. So there they can very well see. Like I know, like even like HDFC Bank has also come up with some plans for these startups. So even Yes Bank as well. So there are several banks. So CDB as well. So like you can very well find which are the banks who have come up with some win-win model for the startups, wherein the startups will not be loaded with a lot of financial burden. Yes, certainly there will be certain interest rate that they have to pay off. But again, like besides that one, as I was talking about the government at a government segment sector as well. So government is also helping the startups in case the overall startup idea is strong. Few things are important to get government funding is like they have to, first of all, the startup has to get registered into MCA, then Startup India, then DPIIT. These are some of the channels, and following to that, time to time, there are different schemes that are being published by Government of India. So one has to be very much vigilant on that one, like what are the schemes that are coming. And Government of India today has got quite good amount of budget for these startups. I believe like it is around 1,000 to 10,000 crores of funding. So that is good and pretty much good. So startups can very well leverage those I said those goodies as well, like in case they are coming across with such kind of policies wherein like government is very much eager to help these startups. And I know like in the past also there are several schemes government has introduced. In the worst case, suppose all the doors are closed. In the worst case, I would suggest like you can approach the investors outside India.
Yes.
So many a times I have seen that the investors outside India, they first of all they assess the product or the service that they are, and secondly they normally, after assessing, if they find like okay this is promising enough and it is really struggling with the budget funding, they normally ask the startups to get them registered in their country. Because ultimately this is the win-win, because it's not that like okay I have registered over here and I'm asking the funding from there. It's not like it does not work in the FDI model. So ultimately you have to set up your organization there, and then you can get the funding from there. That is the last resort in case you get not a good.
So they won't want to fund Indian company incorporated in India that much, or is that possible? Or
it is possible that but we have to be little realistic as well. So suppose I am one of the investors and I am investing upon your business. Right. I will certainly look for certain return as well.
Right.
I will be looking for return. I will be looking for some equity as well. And I must have proper visibility as well. Right. Because I am spending onto you. While I am sitting miles away, first of all, I may or may not have proper visibility how you are running the show. Right. Secondly, what sort of return that you are getting? Because if I am launching something in the Indian market, so certainly the pricing factor will be there. And based upon that, I can very well calculate what sort of the return that I will get. And if I have invested, so I will look forward for certain percentage of their revenue as a return.
And then
So
the rupee to dollar thing won't work out very
all
well.
those things will come in. So and these are the barriers as well.
Right.
So just to avoid these barriers, it has been said like, okay, come down, register your organization over here, startup over here. Our government will basically invest you. If not, I am going to invest onto you.
Got it. Wow. Okay.
Then again, it will lead to the brain
Because
drain.
anyway, talking about foreign investors, I think ultimately I may have to go with them just for the simple reason that they have more of a vision approach as opposed to one thing I've run into, because I've podcasted with investors on my YouTube channel as well as spoken with them privately, and they want everything in place: users, positive EBITDA, earnings, this, that, and I'm like, okay, if I have all that in place, I don't need you. Why do I need you if the startup is going that beautifully, right? I need you to help me out when I'm struggling, right? So, and then they don't want to do that. So, but what I believe, and maybe I'm wrong, but what I believe is at least American investors for sure are much more of a vision. They'll see the vision and then they'll be like, okay, fine, have all these problems and all that, but I see the vision and I can see that this could be a big success, so I'll invest. That
Yes. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. Okay, every time they will ask you to get your organization registered there. I'm saying like in most of the cases I have seen that. Yeah, again, there are scenarios wherein they may if they feel that the product or the service the offering is very much promising. It may happen that they would like to collaborate with you as well, so that FDI will come over here in India.
Or possibly a branch could be there, like for using India and America as an example, we could have a branch office there and they are sort of there and some thing like that. No, but you know what? I'd like you to comment on the psychology difference. Why the psychology difference of Indian investors versus, say, American investors? And why American investors go with the vision, whereas Indian investors want to be, just super safe. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes.
So I wanted you to comment on that, the psychology difference, between the Indian investor and the US investor. Why the Indian investor is so trying to be safe, whereas the American investor is willing to take more risk and invest money based on
It's not about taking more risk. It's just a game of dollar only. Okay. So how much dollar and the money. So like if you let me, I believe like I can give this example in a best way. Just let us go back in 1947 or maybe prior to that, when 1 rupee was either equivalent to $1 or maybe having more value than $1. At that time, we used to say like even each and every object had a value. Whereas like over a period, we have witnessed the inflation. And therefore, nowadays, like even like everyone can afford most of the things like cars, mobile, and all those things. But you can see, like in 1970s, 60s, having a telephone, like in the 80s as well, having a telephone was a luxury during that. Having a television at home was a luxury. But nowadays, that is what. So now the value of money, rupees, as compared to dollar, there's a big difference.
Right.
They can very well invest that one. They can take the risk. No worries. Take it.
It's less money for them, essentially.
It's less money. So less money, less risk. So they can. So again, there are certain clauses as well. There are certain, I would say, what you call, I would say like clauses like you have to show like what is the current model, what is the current business model, what is your strategy, what is the revenue model, because I hardly have seen any startups being funded at a very initial stage unless and until, as I said, their offering is really out of the box. If something is out of the box with patent and all, it's a different thing altogether. Certainly, most of the, even like in India also, they will get the investment. But if it is a general one, then normally investors within India or outside India, they would like to see the revenue model as well. But as you have said, like there is a mind, there is a there is a difference in the mindset. Like the Indian investors are little bit they are not so open for investment unless until they see that the offering is very much promising. And
there is a little bit of a safety sort of mentality as opposed to, I mean, granted that for Americans, there's less money involved, but still they have a little bit of a riskier appetite,
because like in America or any Western countries, a startup is very common. In India, yeah, it's growing. Although like India stands in the third position as a startup ecosystem, but still like overall from success rate, I would say it's not about
Yes.
the number of startups, but success
About
rate.
the success
India is still struggling.
Yeah.
So that could be one of the major reasons why the investors are little bit little bit what concerned before they go for the investment, because no one wants to take risk while investing a significant amount. However, in US you will see that the startup culture is pretty much old.
Yes.
Facebook, even like Microsoft itself, the way Microsoft has grown in the mid 70s and falling to that till date. So in US or in maybe in European countries, there are several such companies who have started their journey as a startup, and over a period they have grown and they became tycoon. But on the other hand, in India, we are still going through the same process. Like either it could be government sector, or it could be some major business players. In between, there are small players who are now coming up in the market. It's pretty much new for India. There will be a change. You will see the change in the near future. But yes, as you have correctly mentioned, that for the investors, Indian investors are little bit reserved in that fact that they are not so open to invest quickly, because they always feel that they always want to see that what is the model, and how much promising that offering is, whether they will get that return as quoted or not. Because I can very well quote whatever it is, but unless until my financial model really supports to my quote, I will think twice or thrice before investing even.
Okay.
And you can take like some of the, I will not take the name of the organizations, startup organizations, but you can very well see there are certain organizations in like online education sectors which tremendously failed in the past.
Yeah.
Few.
I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah. So at that time, like they have invested huge to know.
They actually did very well during when the pandemic was going on. They took off, but then somehow after that they managed to fail. So anyway, now Subhajit, okay, fine. Putting aside investment and investors and all that, interesting question. I asked this to an investor that I podcasted with, who had dealt with many startups. So my question was, what is something that generally, like when you look at 100 startups, 70, 80 out of 100 get right? What is something that they generally get right? And I'll tell you what the other person told me, but I'd like to hear your answer to that first, and then I'll say what he said.
Can you just repeat that? I didn't get that one. Sorry, I'm really sorry.
What I meant is, the question was, let's say you look at 100, you've seen many startups. What is something that they get right, that they do correct?
Okay. Because of which they get success.
Like most of them do correct. Like out of 100 startups, 80 will do this one thing correct. There's something common that many startups tend to do right. What is there something that?
So one thing is like I'm talking about the success, those startups which got success in their
or even the ones that failed, but they had this one quality that was correct. They did other things that was wrong, which is why they failed. But they had one thing that was correct. So I'll tell you what this guy said.
Coming up with an idea. That is one thing which is very much common.
Yes, that's the same thing. Same thing he said also. Yeah, the startups generally get the initial idea kind of right or good idea, but then they fail in the execution.
Yeah. So idea is something, as I said, like idea is the final cooked item which was cooked with the help of certain ingredients. Those ingredients are nothing but the problem, different types of problems, and ultimately I have found the ultimate problem which I want to answer with the idea. Now, having an idea is very much common to all, whether you are succeeding or whether you are failing, doesn't matter. Because of idea I have, therefore I'm going to start a business. But now, whether my idea is right or wrong, whether it has been validated or not through the right channel, that is missing.
That's exactly what he said. Yeah. Now, conversely, is there something that startups tend to get wrong? That is the most frequent wrong thing. What would you say is the most frequently seen thing you've seen that they get wrong?
Yeah, the same I will say the answer, idea. Because the way the idea is very much common, the very wrong thing is now identifying just the idea. So to me it's because when I normally, how do I start taking the startup, how do I get involved the startup, is to have a discussion with them about the idea that they have come up with, and then I start moving backward. Why this idea? Right. Then they come up with the other idea because of I got this idea, therefore I thought of this idea. And then it's a retrospective action that I do take, going to the depth of that idea. Then I normally identify what are all the steps, what are all the ideas that is not actually very much meeting the expectation what the person is basically looking for. Although that idea may fuel to the another one and then another one, all those things, but somewhere or other there is some sort of gap in between.
Or basically the connection of the idea to the problem, the pain point that it's trying to solve.
Connection to the ideas to the problem, and even connection between the two ideas as well. Because when you are coming up with an idea, it is not that in one glance itself you will get an idea. There must have been some primary idea, and following to that, you have further weaved the ideas, and then you have come down to the final idea. Now, in between also, I have found that there is a gap between idea 1 to idea 5, 2, 3, 4. Those things are completely gone. Now I am in idea 5, and now I am going to idea 6. So, and now in idea 7.
But what is wrong with that? As long as idea 5 is solving the problem, then that's well and good, right?
Yeah. So normally what happens is that it is just about the identity, as I said, why and how. If you remember, why and how ladder. So why is basically taking me to the core of the problem statement. How is basically taking me to the entire wide spread. So while I am talking about the how, it's basically I'm talking about different areas of the problem that I'm touching upon. Now, if I have missed 2, 3, 4, and I'm jumping onto the 5, that means I am basically missing out those 2, 3, 4 problem areas, and I'm just jumping onto the 5, and then I'm going to the 7 and saying that, okay, this is the idea. I have to look upon each and every part, and then I can suggest that whether this idea 7 is fine to go with, or idea 6 is good to go with, or idea 5, or idea 4, or idea 3, idea 2, or idea 1. It all depends on flexibility and then.
Okay. Wonderful. Well, we are pretty much running out of time here. We've been speaking for a while. It's been wonderful, beautiful insights and information. Just one final thing I'd say, Subhajit, what any final advice you have to give to our viewers, start budding entrepreneurs? Any
Yeah, so for all the entrepreneurs, first of all, I would like to congratulate you, because you are the one who is going to set the foundation of this Make in India, Atmanirbhar India, Skill India, all these things, because you are the one who is going to create the employability. You are going to create employment for maybe starting from tens, hundreds, thousands, millions of Indians. That is one thing. You are going to play a pivotal role in the Indian economy to boost up. But while you are doing all these things, one thing is very much sure: don't replicate what others are doing. They have already done what what they had to do, and they succeeded. Learn from their success, come up with your own unique offering, which can very well be competitive in the market. Because if I get uh, one product, maybe a detergent, say for example, similar sort of detergent is already there in the market, and the third is also there. So while I will step into the store, I will get deviated. Either I will go with the one which for which I am loyal enough, that is one thing, or else just by my choice, I will hop from one product to another to another. In either case, it is not going to help the other detergent products, because most of the people will follow their loyalty because they have been attached to that particular product. If and only if you can come up with something extra, something different, what is already existing in the market, you will conquer the market, because ultimately the word of mouth, the feedback is very much important. One important thing that I would also like to add over here: be innovative. That means be open to take the feedback, because you launch something in the market, don't close the doors, rather open the door to listen what your customer, what your consumer, what your clients are basically talking. Take them as feedback, assess them, form an inform, if possible, form an innovation group who will basically look into all those feedbacks, whichever is coming from different stakeholders, and see out of them, which all the feedback could be good enough to be incorporated into your offering. One thing is sure, that it will be very much client centric, and therefore your sustainability mantra for your product to be there in the market will always be, will always bloom like anything, because you have accepted, you have welcomed the responses of the customers, your own customers, and you respected their feedback and you incorporated them into your offering. These are some of the things which I would like to share with the
Wonderful.
young generation, yes, entrepreneurs.
Wonderful, wonderful. That's very good advice. So, thank you so much, Subhajit, for joining us. For the viewers, please, you'll find all of Subhajit's information in the description below. Also, please comment and let us hear what you have to say about this podcast. And that's it for us for today. Thanks again, Subhajit. And
Thank you, Vivek. Thank you. Thank you.
bye-bye.
Bye.